Okay, we're now live on YouTube, so whenever you're ready, Roger.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody to today's meeting of Liss Parish Council. As always, one or two hitches with Zoom, but we'll do our best to make it work for everybody and for those who are looking in upon the meeting. Can I turn to the clerk? Do we have any apologies?
We have apologies from Councillor Nibbs.
Right. Fine, thank you. Declarations of interests. As you know, there's a formal wording which we have to follow here, which was included in the email from the clerk of the 10th of December. So hopefully you've got it in front of you. And I will start off just to remind you of the wording, that I, Councillor Roger Hargreaves, am a parish councillor. So I confirm that I have read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening. Okay, can I move down then? Sheila.
My name is Sheila Baldwin. I'm a member of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I've read the agenda and I have no interest to declare in any of the items.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Keith Button.
Thank you, Roger. I am Councillor Keith Button. I'm a councillor of Liss Parish Council. I have read the agenda and I have no interest in declaring any of the items this evening.
Thank you very much. Rob Finn.
Yeah. I, Councillor Rob Finn, I'm a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you. Do we have Jeanette back with us?
We do, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Jeanette Lowe.
Hi, Jeanette Lowe. I'm a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. Don Gerard.
Thank you. I'm Don Gerard. I'm a member of Liss Parish Council. I've read the agenda and I have no interest to declare in any of the items.
Thank you. Howard Lindsley. Is Howard back?
Yeah, he is. Oh, 1 minute on mute. Let me unmute you, Howard.
You're moved,
Okay,
Howard.
far away, Howard.
All right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I, Howard Lindsley, am a councillor of Liss Parish Council. I have read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any items on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Howard. Leanne MacDonald.
Yeah, I, Leanne MacDonald, am a councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. Andy Smith.
I, Councillor Andy Smith, am a parish councillor for Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I have read the agenda and I have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. Claire Williams.
Hi, Councillor Claire Williams. I'm a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Nick Wilson.
Hi, Councillor Nick Wilson, a member of Liss Parish Council. I've read the agenda and papers and I have no interest to declare in any of the items we're considering this evening.
Indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Nick. I will move on to Chairman's announcements, and actually the first announcement really covers the fact that there was one name that wasn't asked there. Just to formally record that Cindy Edwards has resigned as a councillor, and that we are therefore advertising a vacancy, the deadline of which is going to be the 4th of January. Thank you. The other Chairman's announcement, this could pop up under matters arising, but I'll just pick it up now, I think. On the men's shed, where there's been a lot of work going on, we have a license agreement which has been shared with the trust, which is currently now with the Facilities Committee to look at in detail. We then hope as swiftly as possible to get it to the full council, and firstly by email, probably with a formal ratification in January. But we are keen now to try and make progress as soon as possible. So we would like to try and get a view before we get to the January meeting, if it is at all possible. Part of the reason for that is that at long last, the men's shed have managed to obtain planning permission for their changes to the use of the shed, which is helpful. So that is a project which I think is now getting underway, and hopefully the pace will speed up. But really, it now lies with Nick and the Facilities Committee to continue discussions with the shed about how that actually works in practice once we've got the legal side out of the way. Is that okay, Nick? Anything you wish to add to that?
No, I just say that they are immensely energetic bunch, and having spent their time preparing for Christmas by producing all sorts of things which you can buy via their website, I suspect they will be eagerly beavering away as soon as they can. So that's that. And just to re-emphasize, that's the reason for our trying to, in a sense, get it cleared by email, so we're not standing in their way. In practice, I think they'll start by erecting the garage and working on the kitchen, but I'm keen that we don't sort of put any unnecessary obstruction in their way.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. Okay. Can I move on to item 4, the minutes of the council meeting of the 16th of November? Anybody got any points to raise in terms of it being a true and correct record? Thank you. In case then, could I have someone move approval of the minutes?
Howard's indicating he's approving, and Nick seconder.
Right. All those in favour of adopting the minutes, please show.
Yeah, that's everyone.
Fine. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Matters arising. Does anybody wish to bring anything up on the minutes?
Sorry, we just need to check that Jeanette was in agreement with the minutes.
Yes, in agreement. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. Right, go back. Any points that people want to raise? Matters of...
Yeah, Nick's got his hand up.
Nick.
Do you want mute, Nick?
And who's, is there anybody else besides Nick?
No, just Nick.
Couple of items.
Right, okay, Nick, please go ahead.
Couple of items on page 10120, item C, just to report that through Sarah's initiative, we obtained the funding for the Petanque Court, actually called a Petanque Terrain, for those who want to be in the know. And it is, I think, almost complete, if not complete. Various materials have been delivered virtually outside my front door. And I've been delighted to see the speed at which the Petanque fraternity, sorority have acted on our being able to fund it. Item E, sadly, is not good news in that I think members will know that we were not successful in getting SIL funding for the range of projects that we are planning in West Liss Recreation Ground. However, we will be working on a revised set of applications during January with a view to their deadline for the next year of 31st of January. And with Roger's agreement, I'm aiming to do that in concert with Newman Collard Playing Fields Trust, who have a sort of parallel ambition to have a multi-user games area, a mugger. We think, Dorothy and I and David Dodds, that these are compatible proposals. They'll have a different audience or different range of participants, and we think it's right to do it as a village enterprise, those separate applications rather than separately. So, and Dorothy has agreed that that would be a good thing to do. I think that's positive, though obviously we can't guarantee the outcome.
Thank you very much for that, Nick.
Could I ask a question? Why do we know why the bid was unsuccessful?
Sarah's been trying to find someone to give us that answer. I don't know whether you've been yet found someone to actually return your call.
I have been in touch with somebody, but they're actually considering whether they have the resources to even look at an individual application. So I'm not sure at this stage, but I should continue to push for feedback.
I had an interesting conversation with Chris Patterson at the SDNP today, to do with highways, nothing to do with the West Liss thing. But he said something quite interesting, which made me wonder if that's why this bid was unsuccessful. And that is because the South Downs National Park will not give funds to parish councils who have large sums of Section 106 outstanding and unspent.
Shall I respond on that point?
Yeah.
We don't have any Section 106 funds in the open spaces and recreation pot. So I don't think that, I think that's a general point of feedback.
I was thinking about the highways and whether that had anything to do with it. It was just a thought as he was talking to me.
We can ask him on, I was going to say we can ask him tomorrow in the Highways Committee, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Checking. I would be really surprised if it was that, because highways is ring fenced in 106 to only be spent on highways. So
he wasn't talking about this particular application. It was just he was talking generally about parishes who apply for funding and the fact that the SDNP won't give them funding if they know that they've got unspent 106, large sums. It wasn't about this particular project.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Nick.
My instinct is that it's probably more to do with them being oversubscribed. And our hope is that with that they say in the guidance that having a housing development active makes it more likely that you'll get the funding. So I'm hoping that because Anders Wood is now being built, this coming year, we will be successful. But it would be really helpful if Sarah can find someone who can speak authoritatively about our not getting it, in case there was something wrong with the bid. What we are going to do is to try and spruce up the bid and put it into a more strategic context, hence wanting to work with Newman Collard so that we can show that we've got a cross-village approach to recreational facilities.
Yeah, one thing I've raised is when we first submitted a list of projects, they were assigned a priority, and West Liss for some reason was assigned a medium-term priority. Of course, it's much more urgent now. So by submitting just for West Liss, we've said this is our highest priority. But if you look at their grid, it still shows it's a medium-term priority. So I've challenged that and asked, what more do we need to do to say this is an urgent project? So I have got some kind of engagement, but I should push and see what more I can get in terms of the detail of that particular project.
There's also an issue about consultation, isn't there, with the parish, the residents of the parish, about actually what they would like the money spent on too.
Yes, well, I think that's a slightly later stage. I'm not sure it affects the initial bid. Can we leave it that Sarah will continue to see if she can get feedback of the exact reasons? Secondly, Andy, if you're actually seeing Chris, you may just clarify his remarks on Section 106. Although I think in Liss's case, we've effectively committed all the Section 106 money, and although we will get substantial civil money eventually out of Andler's Wood and other developments, we have not got it yet. So we're rather in between in terms of actually having funds available at the moment. Yeah. So I wouldn't have expected that to be a reason, but nevertheless, we will pursue this and see if we can try and find a way of upping the priority on our proposal. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to raise on the matters arising? I can't see anybody. Can you see anybody, Keith?
No.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed then on that. Can I move on to item 5? Let me welcome Russell to the meeting. And as always, and very efficiently, you've provided a paper for us. Russell, do you want to speak to the paper at all?
Yeah, I will, just for 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I hope you all had a chance to look at my report, and you will have noticed the first item being about the support for vulnerable families. And what's noticeable about this is that it was in my last report as well in November, because Hampshire actually moved on 26th of October to make this funding available. So we were 2 weeks ahead of the curve, because the government put the money, the £170 million together on 9th of November. So it doesn't really matter who got there first. The important thing is there is lots of money available, and there are lots of schemes going on to make sure that families are supported through the difficult winter periods and the holidays. So that's good news. The second item about the training for the Lensman, it's fairly self-explanatory, but I was pleased to see this because it shows Hampshire is committed to the Lensman scheme and is seeking to find ways to make the Lensman more effective. Thirdly, I mentioned the tree strategy, and I hope some people will click on that link and have a read of it. And the verge cutting, there's been a big issue across the division of Petersfield Hangers. Because as you may recall, there was an early verge cut this year as an experiment. And as I've reported, that will probably be the case again next year. But they've moved the deep cut now to every other year. I was actually in touch with the county botanist today, Nikki Court is her name, because I was asking her what evidence does she have that the early cut has benefited biodiversity. And interestingly, she replied to me that we won't know for sure for several years, because it will take that long for the verges to recover and for the second flush of flowers to actually start to really take stock. So I didn't realize that. So that was quite interesting. And I think that, you know, we could potentially see more wildflowers in the summer next year as a result of what happened this year. And then finally, in my report, I've mentioned the innovative pilot, which Hampshire's involved in for testing of family members so they can visit loved ones in care homes. And I mean, this is good news for 2 reasons. It's good news for people who've got relatives in care homes, but it's also good that Hampshire is the county, or one of the 3 counties that Whitehall officials turn to when they want to pilot a scheme such as this. So I was very pleased about that. And I think that's everything from a county perspective for me. So now I'll do my traditional thing of letting Keith do the district bits, and I'll just mention anything that that he doesn't, that I think we need to talk about after he does the district report. Thanks very much. Thank you very
much. Can I just ask, has anybody got any questions for Russell?
Yeah.
On the county?
I've got one.
Leanne has, and Howard. Leanne, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll go.
Oh, and Sarah.
I've got a question on the Healthy Start payments, Russell. I realise you may not be able to answer it this evening, but I was reading very recently about Healthy Start payments and the fact that a lot of people don't, countrywide, a lot of people don't actually know about them. And in some parts of the country, the take-up is quite low. It's about 55%. So I wondered if you would be able to find out what the take-up is in Hampshire and whether you can actually narrow it down to East Hampshire or even, you know, Liss Parish. I don't know whether you'll be able to do that, but you should be able to find out the take up in Hampshire at least.
I'll see what I can do. I'll ask the public health guy at Hampshire if he's got any info on that.
Yes, because it may be that we need to advertise it more widely, and
yeah,
as a parish council, we could do that on our website, couldn't we, Roger?
Yeah, we could help on that.
Yeah, so I'd be very interested to know what the take-up is in Hampshire and East Hampshire if possible.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Could get a list, that'd be wonderful, but I don't think it probably you'd be able to reduce it that far, but thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Very much. Did Howard have a
Howard, yeah.
Yes. Russell, at the last meeting you were at, which I think was the October one, I raised the issue of people not being able to leave stuff at the dump unless they were driving a car. I think in particular it was because of a non-driver actually going on foot to the dump and being turned away. You said you'd try and investigate this in order to get it changed. Is there any progress to report on that?
Yes, thank you for reminding me about that. I have been active in lobbying on this matter. And in fact, it came to the decision day for Rob Humby, the executive member. 2 weeks ago now, or 3 weeks, I don't know, I've lost track of time. Sometime in recent weeks, he had a decision day, and I raised this issue of the Petersfield dump. And they are now talking about a pilot scheme to reintroduce pedestrian access. And they're coming back in January with a proposal. So it is starting to happen, basically. They've been very nervous about it for various reasons. It turns out that one of the issues they're concerned about is not just COVID, but it's also health and safety generally, how you allow pedestrian access whilst vehicles are going in and out. But now the officers come up with a system to use the booking slots to create regular times for pedestrians to come within that weekly schedule. So they are working on it. I've done everything I can to reiterate that many people use the dump, and they've noted that. You know, Petersfield, the dump in Petersfield is very unusual. We're the only dump that's within a 10-minute walk of a mainline train station in the whole of Hampshire. And I pointed this out to them, and I don't think any of them had realised it. And they all sort of thought, okay, we do need to give some more thought to what we do with Petersfield. I explained to them that people do come on the train. So I've done what I can, is my point.
Okay, thanks very much for that, and thanks for trying to push it. It seems to be, for what I would have thought was a trivial thing, doing a lot of work and spending a lot of time. Do you know where the tests will go? Will that be at Petersfield or somewhere else? Or
I don't know for certain, but I will report back on that when I've got some solid information.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, we can leave it like that and leave that with you, Russell. I'm very aware that the problems there are to do with the fact that it is a very old-fashioned waste site, and it's really quite difficult to use, particularly for pedestrians. So it's certainly not just to do with COVID, but we'll leave it with you for you to come back on that. Thank you. Was there anybody else who had anything to raise with Russell?
Sarah's got her hand up. Roger.
Sarah? Can't see you.
I just wanted to ask Russell. Russell was very aware that we've had issues with the verge cutting around the triangle, and Russell worked hard to make sure it was cut in time for the November the 11th commemorations. So just wondering what's happening and whether that's been actually put on the official schedule, because it seems the last few years we've had to lobby to have it cut every year.
I believe it has now been put on the cutting schedule. Yes. So I believe Norse are going to cut it regularly. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Good, we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I would agree with Russell on that. Last I saw was that it had now been put on Norse's schedule. So
right, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
And Rob's got his hand up. Rob.
Oh.
Yeah, just something completely different. Now, forgive me, this is only my second meeting. This might come under the Highways Committee. But one thing that I've noticed on my commute in and out going towards Portsmouth, in Liss and in the centre itself, obviously now in Petersfield, I notice there's a lot of parking wardens and things going around, especially at the moment. But just opposite Tesco's, it's getting quite dangerous with people parking on those double yellow lines. Now, I can admit that I've almost run over a school child about 3 times in the past few weeks because they're trying to cross where people are parking on the double yellow lines. I can't see them. I come around on the roundabout. One, I almost tail end the car, and then I almost run over a child that's trying to run across the road. Would that come under yourself, or would that come under the Highways Committee?
Well, the highways are the responsibility of Hampshire County Council, and the Highways Committee is very concerned about this. We've discussed it at the Highways Committee, and we all agree that there needs to be a formal crossing closer to Tesco, so that people don't do that dash for their lives across there. So it's very much on the agenda. Unfortunately, it's sort of bound together with the whole village enhancement scheme, because Hampshire County Council don't have funds to undertake the work on their own. It's going to have to be part of a village scheme that we try and get funding for under SIL, or possibly use some of the other parish council SIL funding. But that project is, active, and the Highways Committee are developing a plan to tender, or to invite companies to tender for the design work. So it's on the radar.
Okay, very quickly, can I go to Andy?
I was just going to say, and in the interim, if there's any illegal parking, it'd be worth referring it to EHDC enforcement in terms of picking it up, just so they can get an idea of where to send their patrols. And Keith and Russell often try and influence on our behalf to get enforcement officers patrolling around the village. So if we can tell them where and when is a good time to come, they can feed that into the scheduling.
Okay, right. Rob, you are pushing in an open door here. It's an issue we're all very aware of. The problem is finding a solution to it. But do have outside the meeting, have a word with Andy, who can sort of update you where some of the thinking is going on this.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Right. Can I move on then to district councillors and take up Russell's invitation to lob it to Keith to respond on councillor?
Okay, thanks, Roger. First thing to start with is not directly a district council matter, but we haven't really got anywhere else to bring up on the agenda, which is to say, with my Chair of East Hants Rail Partnership hat on, I'm very pleased to say that at the National Community Rail Awards last Wednesday night, Liss Station won 3rd prize in the artwork category for the station murals. So I think it's great that we've won a prize at national level against massive competition. So that's really, really good. And we do have an entry in the winners booklet, which I can let anyone have. And we're hoping to get a bit of exposure of that in the Peaceful Post this week as well, which will be good. Yeah, on a similar rail-related issue, but not so it's good news, we have become aware of a group of young people who, predominantly male, who are arriving in the village on a Friday evening, and they're making their way to the Newman Torre playing field, and on their ways often stopping off outside the front of Tesco's so that they can harass a few people walking along the pavement. And they then are taken to going back to the station, sitting in the station shelter and consuming alcohol and the nitrous gas canisters. And obviously that's by itself quite a dangerous activity to undertake when you're only 10 feet away from a live railway line. We are working together with British Transport Police on that, who are going to mount patrols at Liss station on a Friday evening in the hope that it will deter that activity. It's important to say, though, I think that all of these, or by far the majority of these young people, are not from Liss. They come in on the train and then much later in the evening they leave on the train. But it's something we're aware from CCTV now of where they come, you know, the fact they are coming through the station. And so it's something that's been actively followed up. So then to move on to the district council itself, I guess the major news which you will have seen in all the local press is that the governance review has now been made public, and it's not comfortable reading for any of us who've been councillors at East Hants for any period of time. But I think it is important to say that a lot of it refers to the previous regime under Councillor Cowper, and that Councillor Millard and Jill Neller, our Chief Exec, have worked hard to turn that around. But as I said to somebody in an email, it is rather like turning around a super tanker. It's not something you can do in an instant. It will take time to totally change that culture around. But certainly myself as chairman and Councillor Millard as leader have a total zero tolerance policy towards bullying and harassment. And I think it's important to get that over, that things are changing. Other than that, we've approved our new constitution, we've approved our new council code of conduct, we've approved our new digital strategy. So we have quite a number of things strategically that are moving forward, and we're also moving forward now again, now that we're sort of meeting again regularly with things to do with the climate. And indeed, we're looking at how we can work with Pecan, which Russell's actually one of the trustees of, so that we can get more activity in this area and in the Petersfield area about the climate. I can't immediately think of anything else that I need to cover, really. We're still working on the budget that will come to January's full council for approval. But if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Howard and Nick. Well, Howard, I'll just unmute you.
Yeah, okay. With regard to the first thing you announced about the antisocial behaviour, whatever you call it, we had this problem some years ago of people coming by train to Liss and causing a nuisance. It seems very similar. And an order was put on the centre of the village by the police. And the name of that order escapes me at the moment. But that was put on Liss, and it was to do with gatherings of people. And it was on for about a month, I think. And that seemed to cure the problem. So I don't know whether that's worth looking at as a possible route of sorting this out.
That sounds like a public order notification. So it would be a, like you said, it's an
ASBO
gathering. Well, no, ASBOs don't exist anymore. But
No,
it is similar.
Howard's talking about a few years ago.
Yeah, but now it would be a public order notice that would just stop people from gathering for long periods of time unless they're waiting for an actual train.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think it was an ASBO, because I think that applies to individuals.
Yeah, I think it was what Rob was saying. I think it was something along those lines, and I'm sure that's been investigated. Anyway, as I say, the police are very aware of it and are looking to see what can be done.
Okay, thanks.
I will say that the police did get involved when the youths were at Newman Collard a couple of weeks ago, and one of the youths decided it was fun to kick the doorman off the police car on their way out of the playing field, which it just shows the attitude, unfortunately, I think.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. Anybody else with any questions? Nick?
Yeah, it was on the same subject, and it relates to Newman Collard. It's clearly been causing the members of the Newman Collard Trust some considerable concern, the amount of broken glass and disruption being caused there. And I just wondered, very welcome news about the transport police, but I'm just wondering whether Dorothy has been told about this intention to try and cut off the incomers.
I don't honestly know on that, Nick, to be honest, but it's a good point, so I'll make sure I'll let her know. Just,
I think it would be very, very good for them to know that. Yeah.
Just a note, Roger. We appear to have lost Don Gerard.
Have we?
Mm.
Do we know what point in the meeting we lost him?
Sometime during when I was talking. He was there when I started talking, and then when I was looking around to see if anyone wanted to talk, I noticed he disappeared.
Well, let's make a note of that, please, Sarah. And if he comes back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Can I move on to item 7, which is the report from the finance officer? You've got a report in front of you. It's basically a fact record of payments. Any questions or comments? Howard?
Yes, it's just that the one thing that sticks out to me is the two lines, one in the main account, one in the charities, with regard to pension contributions in relation to salaries. In the main account, it's over 27%. In the charities, it's only 18.75%. I know that there have been problems with the pensions and the pension funds in a bad way. Is 27% the right thing? And why is it more for one than the other?
We don't have the finance officer with us, do we?
No.
I don't know whether Claire, you're aware, or whether Sarah might be able to help.
Not for some guidance. Pension contributions are calculated on a percentage of people's earnings over a certain amount. And I know that in the charities, there will be a couple of the employees who are paid hourly who don't earn enough to make pension contributions. So that'll be what the difference between the two is. As for the percentages, they're set by the government, they're mandated, and it's not, we don't have any control over what they are.
Okay, thank you. In that case, especially with the main account ones, if it's 27%, more than 27%, and that's on the total staff pay, salary, whatever you like to call it. So if it only applies to something above a certain limit, then it's obviously a lot more than 27%. No, it seems to me.
Sorry, Howard.
I'm just questioning, why is it so high?
It will be the employee and the employer's contribution. So it's not just the amount that the employer contributes. It'll also be the amount that Sarah, Liz and Lizzie, etc. contribute.
Okay.
Now,
yeah.
If you wish to do it further, I think it's probably best done outside the meeting with the finance officer, who
okay.
I mean, what Claire is saying sounds to me right, but obviously it's the finance officer who's put the figures together. So if you want to pursue it further, take it up with her outside the meeting.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Okay. Any other points? Right. In that case, then, can I have somebody who can move approval of these accounts?
Claire's got a hand up.
Yes. And secondly, Howard.
Howard, yeah.
Right. All those in favour of approving these?
Everyone I can see. Jeanette, are you in favour?
I can't see Jeanette.
Yes.
Jeanette,
Yes, Jeanette is. Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you. Right. Let me move on to item 8, which relates to the budget. We have, of course, looked at the budget in some detail at the last meeting, and really give people time to look at it further. But I would have hoped all issues had been raised before we got to this meeting. But can I pass it over to Claire, as chair of the Finance Committee, to introduce and ultimately move the motion? Claire.
Okay, so the budget was submitted to the Parish Council at the last meeting in the middle of November. It had been extensively discussed in the Finance Committee meeting before then, and we tabled it in the last meeting. It was moved that the motion doesn't get passed until this meeting to give people a chance to have a look at it and ask any questions that they have. There were no questions asked as far as I'm aware, and the numbers remain unchanged. The only difference that we have is that we do now have the Band D figure obtained from EHDC, which means a 2.69% increase to the precept this year, where we had previously been estimating around 2.77, so it's a little bit lower. And unless anybody has any questions, I now move that the Parish Council agrees to adopt a Parish Council budget for the financial year of 21-22 of £223,829 to be funded by a precept of £224,250 and a total budget for the Parish Council and the Parish Council's charities together of £290,000.
Thank you very much for that. Is there anyone who wants to raise any questions?
So could you just repeat, Claire, what the percentage increase is in the precept?
It's 2.69%.
2.69.
It's on the paper you've got in front of you, Leanne.
Oh, sorry, paper 8. Oh, sorry, yeah, paper 8, yeah.
Points there. Okay, anybody else want to pick up anything?
Howard's got something.
Just to say that 2.69 is not the increase in the precept, it's the increase on the money per household. And because the number of households has changed, I haven't off the top of my head worked out what the actual increase is, but it's not, the increase in the precept is not 2.69 unless the Band D is identical to last year's, which I doubt.
Yes. Sorry, Howard. I should have been clearer.
So are you able to say what the overall increase in the
0.69%? Could you say what the 2.69 increase is then?
Per Band D dwelling.
Per Band D dwelling.
Per Band D, which is the way that it's always expressed for council tax.
Yes, so that is the basis on which everybody, all councils, express the precept. So there's a common base for comparison.
Yeah, I've got that now. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on the budget? In that case, then
Andy's got his hand up. Andy.
I just wanted to very quickly say that I think that we should reflect that we've done very well holding it down this year, and I know that Bramshot and Liphook Parish Council are increasing their precept by 2.5% without the cost of a new pavilion. So I just thought I would mention that in comparison with a neighbouring council to give us a sense of flavour for how we've managed the budget and kept the costs down.
Thank you very much for that comment. Right, can I have somebody to second the motion from Claire? Andy?
Howard's put his hand up.
Okay. I'm not sure who got there first.
I'm not sure, no.
I was looking at Andy at that moment, so I'll take Andy. Sorry, Howard.
All right, we'll take Andy.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favour of approving the motion as set out on the agenda paper and as outlined to you by Claire Williams. All those in favour?
I think it's everyone. Jeanette?
Yes, I'm in favour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone.
So I love Jeanette's contribution by just popping up and saying yes in favour. It's just excellent to watch it on the screen.
Fine. Well, maybe. We'll see. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Can I move on to item 9? This is actually for us to note, but again, I don't know whether, Claire, you want to say anything to it?
Just to note, on page 2 of the report, right at the top of the page, there was a formal qualification of the 2018-19 accounts. There was a reclassification of the parish, the loan that was made for the pavilion. So not that the accounts were wrong or misstated in any way. It was just a small reclassification, just for quite a large amount of money. So no reflection on the financial control. And I just wanted to say that. And also how pleased I am that the VAT has been reclaimed for the construction cost on the pavilion.
Thank you very much for that. And I must say, it's good to see the many examples of good practice and no formal recommendations having been made. So I think this is basically good news. We're asked simply to note this, so it doesn't need a formal motion as such, but can I, all those in favour of noting?
Yeah, I think that's everyone.
Fine, thank you very much indeed. Right, let me move on to the action plan. The action plan is something that we prepare each year and which we, at the end of the year, we obviously look at in some detail, but it's usual to look at it halfway through the year to see how things are going. This, of course, is a very exceptional year, and I think I would just like to say what a strain it has been, particularly on the officers here. You may think that because we don't have a lot of activities taking place, somehow that was easier. Well, it's not like that at all. And actually trying to step through the niceties of COVID restrictions by doing our very best to provide facilities has proved particularly taxing. And it has been difficult to retain contact with the village, which I think actually the team has done extremely well. So just as a general bit of background, I'd just like to say how much I appreciate what the officers have been doing in order to keep things going. I'm not going to go through every single item here, but I would just pick out one or two. The fourth bullet point down, we have been expanding our use of Twitter and Facebook. We have not published the Village Voice because the problems of distribution and so on, and the present situation, and some of the difficulties in production. That is a loss, but I think it's one of the things that we're going to have to sit down and ask ourselves whether that's going to be an appropriate format for the future anyway, but certainly it wasn't possible at the moment. Further down, working with local key groups, we weren't able to work with the Flood Action Group, which I think effectively has disbanded, which is, I think is a pity, but we weren't able to take the lead on that. And although we would very much like to support it, it does need a group of people in the village who are very concerned with the flooding issue. And I think that's something that, as a parish council, when we go into next year, that's something we can return to and see whether we can do something more. We've certainly been, hopefully, still being able to deliver speedy and transparent decisions. We made use of Zoom, I think, on the whole, quite effectively, despite all the problems that go with it. And we will continue to do that for the time being. The last bullet point of the first section here, promoting training and induction. I think it's fair to say, and I say this particularly to the new councillors, we've not been able to do as much as we would normally do. But Sarah, I know, has plans to do more and particularly engage with the new councillors on this. So we will see what we can pick up on that. Turning to the key projects, of course, COVID-19 next year will, I think, helping the village recover will become a major issue for us. The Liss neighbourhood plan, the monitoring of that, that's something that I rather regret has not taken place as much as one would like. A lot of the reason for that is because the South Downs National Park Authority, who will provide a lot of the base information, have themselves not got their act together on monitoring at the level of parish councils. And this is something we've got to try and pursue, but it proved extremely difficult while they've had large numbers of staff working from home. Further down, we do have a new project review group. It's only met once, but I think it's a start. The highway priorities, yes, we are getting underway in terms of delivering courtesy crossings, one underway, another one to follow. Facilities priorities, we do have the new toilets. We don't yet have the community garden underway. Although we do have funding for it. We have an issue of ownership on the land, not a dispute, but we've got to sort out with the East Hants DC on that. I don't know whether, Keith, you would like to make any comment on that point.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting there, I think it's fair to say, in that we've agreed the principle of the ownership. The question then comes under maintenance. And so at the moment, we are trying to twist the arm of EHDC to give us a lump sum towards maintenance of the land moving forward. It doubtless won't cover the full cost of maintenance, but hopefully will be a contribution towards it. And we've got some legal heads of agreement which were going to the head of legal to be signed off, but that was when David Brown was still with us at East Hants. He's subsequently left now and gone to East Cheshire. And so we've got an interim head of legal who I don't yet know whether it's crossed his desk or not. So it's something that's on my list to follow up and see quite where that's got to.
Thank you very much, Keith. If we can leave that with you, I know that you've been committed to this project, and certainly it is something that will now go ahead. We have put a funding package together, but we do need to sort out these issues over the land and the legal basis for what we're doing.
Can I actually just add in on that, Roger, whilst I'm talking about that? But we do now have available funding at East Hants for providing the bits that go with planting trees. You know, so the sort of protection to put around the tree, the stake for the tree, all that sort of thing we were able to fund. Russell knows more about that than me, but that's I know is in place. And so it would be nice if any groups around the village have got ideas for where they would like to see some trees planted. I'm sure if they approached either Russell or myself, we can hopefully get something moving on that. I'm conscious that recently, in the last week or so, there've been something like 100 trees planted on Windmill Hill just outside Alton, which I know the district council provided the protective equipment for and the stakes and so on.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Let's make sure we don't lose sight of that last point, and perhaps we can have a look as we work on the project how we might publicise that and take that forward. Thank you. And the last point I was going to make, under the financial framework, we have got a new software package. The finance officer tells me it should be up and running by the end of January. And we've got high hope that it looks as though it's going to deliver what we want and going to be hopefully relatively easy to use. So I'm glad that's going ahead. That was a very quick survey of where we are. We're not being asked to actually agree or approve or anything, but simply note position. If there's anything anybody wants to just pick up on the action plan for the moment, but we will.
Andy's got his hand up.
Andy, yeah, Andy.
He's on mute.
You. There you are.
I just wanted to say to colleagues that actually we have indeed, as Roger said, delivered part of the courtesy crossing outside the West Liss wreck. And I'd encourage people to go down and see it in all its glory, along with the path next to the pavilion, because it's a good example of the sort of work that we can do using Section 106 and SIL through the community infrastructure opportunities that Hampshire County Council provide us. And just the Highways Committee tomorrow are having quite a big conversation about taking forward further work on gateways as required by the priority, and some proposed work outside the schools to try and improve the street scene, and also put in some infrastructure that might discourage speeding. So just wanted to give a quick update on some projects around that. But also just to say, have a look at what's outside the pavilion. It's quite good, and it actually slows traffic quite well as well. So it has a bit of a dual impact.
Thank you very much, Randy. Any other comment that one wants to make?
Nick's got his hand up, Roger.
Nick?
Just a couple of things. On Mill Road, just sort of thinking about when the optimum time would be to start work there. Which might sort of help us to push the issue of maintenance to a conclusion. If Keith is happy for me to do so, I might ask David Dodds to express a view about that.
Yeah,
as he kindly agreed to lead on making it happen. If that's all right with Keith. The other thing is just on community engagement. Clearly, we've been a bit inhibited by the overall issues of engaging during COVID, but despite that, I think it's worth reporting on the positive feedback that I've certainly had from our producing the information sheet about sources of support in relation to COVID, which Sarah did, but also just to record the extent of interest in becoming a parish councillor, which I think is a sign that perhaps we've become a slightly more relevant seeming organisation than had previously been recognised by many of our residents. I think that the good thing about social media, the different social media mechanisms, is that it does get to people that other forms of communication don't get to.
Thank you very much for that. Any other points?
What did I just say? I mean, I'm trying to say, obviously, normally around this time of year, we would be having our Christmas meal, which obviously we're not having this year for very obvious reasons to the situation we find ourselves in. But I think it would be appropriate still to just express our thanks to all of the council staff this year for all the work they put in. I know we've said that before, but I think it's worth saying again that at the end of the year, it's they have worked incredibly hard in incredibly difficult circumstances, and I think we all owe them a great debt of gratitude for that.
Thank you very much for that, Keith, which I think is extremely well said.
Russell's got his hand up.
Russell?
Oh, and then Andy.
I was just wanting to echo Keith's comments there and pass on thanks to all of the staff.
Right, thank you. Andy?
Same, I was using the applause emoji to
Oh, right, okay.
comment rather than put my hand up. But maybe I'm showing my limits on technology. I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. I mean, the action plan is an ongoing thing, and this is just an interim check. I think in the circumstances, we've actually been doing surprisingly well, although there are clearly some gaps. I think we're conscious we've not made as much progress as we might on some of the softer community engagement issues, but that's something which I think we still have very much in mind, and we will see how we go the rest of this year and then into next year.
Chair, could I just add one point on that, just for the record, because not least because it would be good for Lizzie's achievement to be recognised, given the pain she is currently suffering. We did the public consultation, the allotment user consultation, as agreed by the Facilities Committee. We did make some changes as a result of that, but the feedback that Lizzie had about that exercise was extremely positive. So I think, by exposing ourselves to being, challenged, we did ourselves a lot of good, and people felt that they had been listened to.
Indeed, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I saw that. I saw the response on that, and it was clearly a good exercise, and point out to the fact we should not be afraid to ask the consumer what it is that they actually want, and see what we can provide. Thank you very much. Finally, item 11, appointments to committees and outside bodies. The newer councillors, Rob and Jeanette, you still have to make up your minds about which committees you might wish to join. I don't want you to put you under too much pressure, but if you could give some thought to it as you get to understand how the council works, and then please have a word with Sarah, that would be helpful. In terms of outside bodies, we do actually have one vacancy for somebody to represent us on the management of the crossover. Now, I don't know whether there's anybody who wishes to submit their name for that or not, either in the meeting, or if you want to do it outside the meeting to Sarah, that would be equally fine. But it is one vacancy which I think is worth filling. Crossover does good work, and I'd like to see us supporting it.
I'd be interested in that, but I'll send my name to Sarah, because there may be others who are also interested.
That's very good of you, Leanne. Thank you very much for that. Well, we see how we go on that, but it's good to know that we have one good possibility there. Okay, that's all I have to say. I've run out of items on the agenda, and so we haven't got any other business. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good Christmas, everybody, and come back bright-eyed and bushy-tailed next year, when we hope that we're beginning to see the sunshine appearing for all of us. And thank you very much for people giving their time to the council over this year, this period in very difficult